Hello, I'm Laurel Wingfield, and I'm back with an abridged version of Chapter 6 of my book, Alice and the Best Friends Forever, Book 1, Jane's Secret. I'll begin reading now. The best friends forever went up to Alison, who was still crying. "It's all right, we'll help you," Jane said. Then she took the ruined frame of the glasses from Alison's unresisting hand, and Alice could have sworn that they were so badly damaged they were beyond repair. Both of the lenses had come out of the frame and were lying on the ground, and one of them was broken into 3 pieces. The plastic coating on the frame was shattered, and the wire was bent and broken. Jane picked up the lenses and all the pieces of plastic frame she could find, and then something amazing happened. Jane handed them back to Alison, and somehow they were as good as new. "Here," Jane said. "It's all right. Hang on, I've got some tissues." Alice, Linda, Rashpal and Stephanie left them and busied themselves with collecting the scattered contents of Alison's school bag. Alice picked up the mobile phone. "Here's your phone back," she assured Alison. "It doesn't look like it's been damaged." Alison took it, without a word. "One of the boys dropped some money," Linda said, holding it out to Alison. "Is it yours?" Alison reached out and took it and counted it. "Thank you," she said in a tiny voice. "That's my school trip money. My gran gave me that. It looks like it's all there." She tucked the money into her purse, which Dermot had dropped after he'd emptied it, and put the purse back in her school bag. "Here's some more money. Is this your dinner money?" Rashpal asked. Alison nodded and took it. She put it in a pocket of her blazer, which had been covered in mud and grass stains by Dermot and Brian pushing her to the ground. Then she took one of Jane's tissues and blew her nose. Everything was gathered up and shown to Alison for appraisal. Some of the pencils were broken, and the books were all muddy and torn. Alison began to cry again when she saw the state of the books. "Come on, let's go and find a teacher," Alice suggested, still wondering at what she had seen with the glasses. But she wouldn't tell. Jane would be in terrible trouble if she did. "Can you believe it? Leo Harris wetting himself?" Stephanie asked them all in amazement. "He'll never live it down. It'll go around the whole school. He'll remember it for the rest of his life." The other girls were still amazed at what they had seen too, and paused for a moment to look in the direction in which the boys had long since disappeared. Finally, Linda said, "Who cares? He deserves it. Serves him right." The whistle for the second lunch group had been blown by the time the best friends forever, along with what they hoped would be their newest member, Alison Moore, arrived back at the playground. They went up to the teacher, who was on playground duty that day, and told him what had happened. On the way over the playground, Alison had pleaded with them. Don't tell anyone it was Leo, please. Please. He'll be so angry now. He'll blame us for that. He'll pick on me even more." "And still the rest of the gang," Alice said, over her own amazement and amusement at Leo's downfall. "They're bullies too." "Not if we stick together, he won't," Stephanie said. "If we are all together in a gang, they won't pick on us. They'll pick on someone who is all alone, like you were. They're too cowardly to face people who can stick up for themselves." "Do you want to join our gang?" Linda asked. "We're the best friends forever." "You can if you want. The more there are of us, the more we can look out for each other." Alison looked around at them, grateful but wary. Other girls had pretended to extend the hand of friendship to her, but it had been only a cruel joke, a vicious betrayal. But what Stephanie had said made sense. The question was, could she trust them? The teacher on dinner duty today was Mr. Wysack. When the best friends forever approached him and pushed Alison forward, he peered at them through his glasses and asked, "What's the problem? Did you trip?" "Go on, tell him," Stephanie urged. It was Leo and his gang. They pushed me down and threw my things around, Alison admitted. Oh, those boys again. They'll be expelled one of these days, and the sooner the better, Mr. Wysack sighed. He sounded fed up. They made fun of him because of his name. Did they hurt you? They damaged her school books quite badly, Jane said. I think they tore up her maths homework too. I grazed my knee a bit. I think I had some bruises, Alison said. Do you want me to have a word with Mr. Singer? Mr. Wysack asked. He'll understand, and I think he knows you're a good student. You usually do your homework. Alison looked at the ground and said nothing. Alice said, I think that would be a good idea, sir. Alison shouldn't be blamed for something Leo and his gang did. All right. Do you need to go to the nurse's office? Mr. Wysack asked. Alison shook her head, looking at the ground. Have you girls had your dinner yet? He asked. No, Mr. Wysack. We were behind the gym when the whistle for the second group went, Linda said. We were concerned for Alison, Jane said. Well, you girls had better go in before they stop serving, Mr. Wysack warned. You'll be all right if you stick with us. We look out for each other, Jane assured Alison as they entered the dining hall. The second sitting was almost over, and the servers behind the hatch were waiting for stragglers. Do you think we should have told Mr. Wysack about Leo wetting himself? Rashpal wondered. Nah, Stephanie said. He still did all those horrible things to Alison. It was only because he wet himself that he stopped. Being the last to be served for lunch, there was not much choice left. All the favourite dishes had run out. The girls had to make do with stuff that they would not normally have chosen, but it was okay, even if the pizza did have onions on it. And as no more children were expected, since the servers were about to pack up, they could have extra big portions. As the girls carried their trays to the nearest empty table, they saw that Dermot and his gang were sitting nearby. They saw the girls and nudged each other with elbows, sniggering at some private joke. The two unknown boys were sitting with them. The girls tried to ignore them as they sat down. You're with us, Stephanie reminded Alison. It'll be all right. Alison said nothing, but reached for the salt to shake over her vegetables. Jane grabbed the salt shaker first, picked it up, and screwed the top back on. One of the boys had unscrewed it and left it balanced on top of the shaker, so that the first girl to try to use it would flood her dinner with salt. Jane handed the salt shaker back to Alison and glared in triumph at the boys. They looked away uncomfortably. How did you know? Linda asked. Stephanie checked the pepper pot to see if the top had been loosened on that as well, and found that it had. She screwed it back on. They're so predictable, Jane said, with an air of world weariness. But a look passed between her and Alice, a secret look. Alice tried to tell her with her eyes. I know, but I won't tell. You saw it in their minds. Alice supposed that, eventually, all the best friends forever would know, and she hoped that they could all keep the secret. That Jane could do things with her mind, like people in science fiction films. She had not imagined those glasses. She had seen it happen. But by the time dinner was over, Alice was not sure that she had. Towards the end of dinner, two teachers came into the dining hall and approached the table where Dermot and his gang were sitting. One of them was Mr. Wysack. Loud enough for the girls to hear, Mr. Wysack said, Mr. Tyson wants to see all of you in his office, now. But, sir, we haven't done anything, Dermot protested, unconvincingly. Now, Terry, the other teacher, Mr. Singer, insisted. But we haven't done anything, Dermot insisted. Everyone in the hall was staring at them. Other children would be telling their peers about this. Now, or you'll get 2 hours of detention instead of 1, Mr. Wysack threatened. The boys stood and directed poisonous glares at the girls. Then they left, The group of boys and 2 teachers threading between the tables and out of the main entrance. Once they had gone, and the other children had resumed their usual chatter, Alison said in a small, frightened voice, We shouldn't have done that. Dermot is leading them now. It's going to be as bad as ever. It'll be all right, Jane said. We'll have to stick together as much as we can, Linda said. If they get one of us on our own, well, we all know what will happen. Where do you live, Alison? Stephanie asked. Alison said in a voice so quiet that they almost didn't hear her. Catherwood Close. It's off Knights Road. Hey, I live near there, Linda said brightly. We can walk together. It's the opposite way to where we live, Alice said sadly, looking at Jane. But maybe I can get my mum to give you a lift to school. Now that Jane's mum is bringing her and Alice to school, I can walk home with you and Linda too. It's a bit out of our way, but if it means that Leo's gang don't get you, we don't mind. My mum was bullied at school too. She knows what it's like. You don't have anyone to bring you or take you home, do you? Stephanie said. Alison shook her head. She never looked up. Suddenly, Jane asked, Alison, what colour are your eyes? Alison looked up, bewildered and suspicious. Was this, after all, another cruel trick? Was someone going to knock off her glasses and laugh at her? But there was something in Jane's eyes that told her that was not going to happen. A kindness, an adult depth. Jane looked into her eyes and smiled. You have beautiful eyes, she said, sort of browny green with black flecks. She looked at Rashpal, who was sitting next to her. What do you think? They're very nice, Rashpal agreed. It would be nice to see them more often. Why do you keep looking at the ground all the time? Because there's something more interesting down there than there is up here, Alice joked, and Alison actually smiled at that. The smile transformed her face, making her much prettier. But by the hunched posture of her body and the miserable look that returned to her face after the smile was gone, the rest of the best friends forever knew that it was going to take more than a single compliment to cheer her up. She looked at the ground all the time because of some strange logic in her mind that made her think that if she didn't look at other people, they wouldn't look at her, wouldn't notice her, that they would leave her alone. That is the end of Chapter 6 of Alice and the Best Friends Forever, Jane's Secret. I hope you enjoyed that, and you'll be back next week for Chapter 7. Until then, take care and goodbye.